Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Dharmin Vora, the co-founder of peAR Technologies, which is an augmented reality-based in-restaurant ordering app. Hi Dharmin, welcome to ELI.
Hi Priya, hi. Great to be here.
I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. So overall, I started my journey about entrepreneurship about 4.5 years back. Right. While I was still in college, I used to work as a freelancer for digital marketing, Facebook ads for US, UK based clients. Right. From then on, I moved to starting peAR about 2.5 years ago. Right. So at peAR, we are building an augmented reality based in restaurant ordering app. Right. So while I was in the whole social media space, by default, I also ended up being a food blogger. Right? I had over 10,000 plus followers on Instagram, and this is back in 2017, 16. Like even that, those numbers are very big for most people, right?
Mhm.
So at that time, I used to visit a lot of restaurants, and then I took Parth and Dhruvesh. So these are the other two co-founders. Right, so
Okay.
Parth, actually, I and Parth are brothers,
Mhm.
right? And then Dhruvesh is batchmate of Parth.
Okay.
So I just took them with me and we ordered pancakes,
Mhm.
right? So we thought that there would be three pancakes in it,
Mhm.
right? But when it arrived, there was only one pancake,
Okay.
and we were very disappointed.
Mm.
So then we thought, why is it that if we are paying for something, we don't even know what we are paying for,
Right.
right? It was very frustrating to think that like if I was supposed to buy something from Amazon,
Mm.
right? Would I buy it without even looking at it?
Mm.
Not really. Then why was it when in the dining space we were doing it? So that is when we started with this, wherein as a user, you simply download our app, you scan a QR code whenever you visit the restaurant,
Mm.
and now you can see the menu in 3D and augmented reality.
Okay.
Right? You can see exactly what the size of the dishes are, what the ingredients are. You can see ratings and reviews of each individual dish.
Mm.
Right? You can so as a customer, you know exactly what you will be paying for,
Okay.
right? And then you can order from the same app, right? You also get you can pay the bill also from the same app. You also get discounts, cashbacks, and loyalty points for ordering from that.
Okay. Do you also give a headset kind of thing for customer to see the order?
No, no, that is more on the VR end of it,
Hmm.
right? We do not do that. We have a very simple system, which is at the end of the day very affordable, because what we believe is dining system in India is completely broken, right? Like think about it, right? Even 100 years ago, or maybe even more, right, we used to dine in the same way that we are doing it today,
Hmm.
right? Restaurants have changed, humans have changed, we have changed, like by default as people, everything, if it has changed so much, right? But
Hmm.
even still, menu cards are still on paper, and ordering is still not digital, right?
Okay.
You give order, waiter writes it on paper and pen,
Hmm.
it goes away somewhere, no data, no one has any data of anything,
Right.
right? It's just a complete mishap,
Mm.
right? So what we have done is we have built a simple mobile app, right, which even you can download, anyone can download, right? We are on iOS Play Store both, simply just download it,
Okay.
right? And you can check out all the nearby restaurants, partnered restaurants over there, right? Or even if, let's say, when you are visiting a restaurant, you will find a peAR QR code on each table,
Okay.
right? Simply scan the QR code,
Mm.
right? And then you can see the menu in, you can see each individual dish, right, in 3D and augmented reality. You will be able to look at it exactly how it will be on your table,
Okay.
right? And by the way, these are not generic images of, let's say, pasta or burgers or something.
Mm.
This is, we have shot those images exactly at those restaurant at those times. And
Okay.
this is exact live view of it.
Okay. What is the current scale of operation in terms of how many restaurants are on board, how many cities have we entered, and how many customers are using our app?
Sure. So we are currently in two cities, Mumbai and Gurgaon. We have over 600 restaurants with us. Like we also have brands like 99 Pancakes, uh, Fisco in Mumbai, Warehouse Kitchen,
Okay.
right? Pocket Cafe. And in Gurgaon, we recently started 2 months back. Right? We already have over 100 plus restaurants in Gurgaon. right? And we have over 40,000 users on the app, right? We generally do about 15,000 transactions a month.
Okay. And how, what is our revenue model? How do we make money?
Sure. So since restaurant industry was actually something that was very hit with COVID,
Mm,
right? We knew that it does not make sense to charge upfront, and that is why we also had this model, right? Where we have we do not want it to be very hardware heavy or in general so very expensive for restaurants, because we want to change it for the whole world, right?
mm,
Not just in India, but if you actually look at across countries also, right? The problem is similar at the end of the day, right? Even over there, even in US, Singapore, even the most advanced countries, there is still a paper menu,
mm,
right? Even ordering over there is still on paper and pen,
mm.
right? It's just too frustrating when you look at it. Like
Right.
100 years ago, you were doing the same thing. Even today, you are just doing the same thing, which kind of does not make sense anymore,
Mm,
right? So what we do is we charge there is no upfront commission, upfront payment for the restaurants to onboard on the app. Right, we convert their menu in 3D menu,
mm.
right, free of cost, and we charge 5% commission on every order that takes place on the app.
Okay. And why does a restaurant will be willing to pay 5% commission when they can get 100% of it, uh, uh, if someone orders from their own paper menu?
Right. So there are two main reasons, right? First was there was no way they were able to upsell users,
Mm,
right? Let's say if you walk in today, there is no way they are for dining and they are upselling. With our tech, first of by default, as a customer, you see better dishes, right?
mm.
And the dishes that look even more comparatively better. The difference, the best example I always give is a brownie versus ice cream brownie,
Okay.
right? Like as a user, if you saw some brownie versus you saw an ice cream brownie, you will most people will end up ordering ice cream brownie. Right? We have seen on an average 20% increase in their average cart value if
Mm,
the user orders from our app, right, for the restaurant.
okay.
So and second thing is by default as a restaurant industry they have great margins,
Mm, mm,
right? So Swiggy, Zomato charge 25, 28, 30% even now,
mm.
right? So compared to that 5%, is really nothing for them.
That is so true. Also, it is adding to the customer experience. Uh,
Correct. Absolutely. Not just adding, the whole customer experience becomes much better. And also, on a softer end of things, by default, customers do not get disappointed more often, right? So, for example, like how I was disappointed when I ordered three pancakes, I'm pretty sure every one of you, there would have been times when you ordered something at the restaurant and you would have been massively disappointed by what actually came, right? What was the quantity of it, or for that matter, thought something completely else,
mm,
right? And that is true across restaurants and across places,
mm.
right? Where it's just, and that is how it's supposed to be, right? Like logically, that is why all restaurants are different in the first place.
Uh, Restaurant industry is not very technology savvy. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, most of the restaurants today are also not in sync with what technology trends are available. How do you convince a restaurant owner to buy your product, or at least uh, adopt it in their premises?
Got it. No, no, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And on top of it, we are not just trying to give them technology, we are trying to sell them augmented reality.
Right.
By default, even most tech savvy industries that we call, even they have not yet adopted augmented reality.
Right.
Right. It is more or less even two steps ahead, right? And then trying to provide it to all these categories. And
Mm,
of course, it's a challenge. But what happens is first principles are very clear, right, to them and us both. Right. The aha moment for both of us is with the moment we show it to them on 3D,
mm,
right? The moment we show the app and show them that your food and your menu will also look like this for your customers,
mm,
right? That is the moment it's just a mind-blowing moment, right? And they're like, okay, I can like this option was also there, because in all honesty, kind of there were no options in the first place,
mm.
right? There was either paper menu or that's it. Like there really was never even an option on the table for that matter. So
Right.
that is why it has been comparatively easy, and plus with the help of COVID also, right? So what used to happen is any which ways ours was a complete digital ordering experience, right? Even before COVID came, we had any which ways building that, right? Wherein simply there will be a QR code, you scan an order and complete it,
Mm.
right? And luckily for us, COVID came in and kind of made it mandatory, right? So where we are seeing a few companies providing a simple ordering system where you scan an order, right? We are adding even two layers on top of it,
Mm.
right? Wherein we are just making the whole experience for a user much better, right? Like logically, if I am going to get someone online, right, and ask them to abandon 100-year-old practice as a customer also, right? Because as a customer also, the moment you walk in, you call a waiter and you ask them for menu,
Mm.
right? Like that's a very instinctive thing to
Right.
take place,
Yeah.
right? And to break that habit, we knew that it had to be a used transformation. We have not seen that transformation from a normal just scanning and ordering systems,
Mm.
right? So that is why we just pivoted from that to the saying, it is very simply don't read an order, watch an order.
Right. When we watch B2B2C platforms, especially in the technology space, the first implementation is usually a big deal. Can you tell us about how did you onboard the first restaurant on your platform? And usually what happens is there are a lot of bugs to our platform, and a few small errors are there. So tell us about it.
Sure. So in all honesty, I would probably say not even small error. We had gigantic errors. Right. And for something like us where there is billing that takes place on that, by default, we have to be very cautious about it because a lot of users save their credit card details on the platform. And there are a lot of payment details and securities that we need in place.
Hmm.
Right. And second thing was we are any which is working in augmented reality. Right. To give you a broader vision of why it is difficult. In right now in India, there are about 1.4 billion population. Only 700 million people have a smartphone,
Hmm.
right? Like half the population does not even have a smartphone yet, right?
Right.
Out of half the population that has, hardly less than 100 million have phones where augmented reality is supported,
Hmm.
right? Like by default, this set of people, right? Where what used to happen is we used to ask them to download app. When they open that, we used to see AR is it is not AR supported,
Hmm.
right? So by default, there are a lot of challenges, and that is going to be there for a few years till time the whole technology evolves,
Correct.
right? So for us also, I remember the first restaurant. So luckily for us, since I was a food blogger,
Hmm.
right, I knew quite a few restaurant owners, right? And when we were just even before starting this, we kind of wanted to just speak with our customers, right, to know exactly what the problems will be like. Is this a big enough problem? Can this be solved in any other better manner? What is more challenging over here,
Hmm.
right? So we started speaking with a few restaurant owners, right? And that is when they kind of came up with the problems,
Hmm.
right? And then we told them, okay, what if we build this for you,
Hmm.
right? And then what we used to do is we built our first version of peAR ever,
Hmm.
right? And that was in a restaurant called Sandoichi in Powai,
Right.
right? And I, Parth and Dhruvesh, right, what it is to get the initial users, we became the waiters at those restaurants for a few weeks,
Okay.
right? We used to be at the system, whenever a customer used to walk in, we used to explain them about that, right?
Hmm.
And also kind of took the feedback, right? It kind of got us understanding a lot of things. There are hardly any features back then, right? In fact, ordering or payment system were not even there. We
Hmm.
just built a 3D menu and we used to give it on a tablet to
Hmm.
them, right? But that is when then we started giving it to 3 or 4 or 5 restaurants, and we realized tablet is a very expensive thing for most restaurants. It is
Right.
not something that will be scalable.
Yep.
It is better if customer has it, right? And then every time a customer, we used to show them on a tablet, customer used to try to tap and order. Like we saw that happening consistently,
Hmm.
right? Wherein they were constantly trying to order, like इसे order नहीं होता क्या, इसे order नहीं होता क्या,
Okay.
right? And that is when we were like, okay, we realized that by default people want to order from it. So then we started ordering in it. Then people told it, can I not do payments from it?
Hmm.
So they're like, okay, we added payments to it. Then we added loyalty to it. Then we added cashbacks, discounts to it, and then we added discovery to it. It's just a very brutal, hard customer feedback loop. But luckily for us, it's kind of very easy to get feedback,
Okay.
right? Because people generally talk very easily when their bellies are full,
Correct.
right? If we need user feedback, we just go and sit at restaurants,
Right.
right? You just sit there whenever customer comes, explain them, take the feedback.
Yeah. So, coming to my next question, can you tell us what are the different challenges that you have faced while building and growing this venture?
So, so it's a very different challenge at all stages, right? So when we were starting, our first challenge was just to make the tech, right? Because making 3D models of food is, in all honesty, extremely difficult. Right? We are the first ones in Asia Pacific to do it.
Okay.
Right? Even today, the amount of data set we have, right? The amount of algorithms and tech that we have built, right? It will take years of time for someone else to come in and build and duplicate it.
Okay.
Right? By default, the whole, I remember for the first roughly 1 year, right? All three founders and two team members, we just used to build tech. We were only a 5 member team back then. Right? We are a 40 plus member team at this point. Back then, we just used to build tech. That's it. And we used to get food from everywhere, try to capture it, make 3D models, make a 3D AR menu.
Mm.
Right. Then we used to try to do it at restaurants. So I remember for at least first 50 odd restaurants, right? I, Paz and Dhruvesh used to physically go to shoot at those restaurants,
Mm.
right? Speak with the owners, managers, waiters, customers, and have a great amount of feedback coming
Mm.
in, right? So first was obviously tech is a huge challenge, right? Second thing was obviously pandemic, right? Because it's kind of like you start gaining momentum, right? And we are in the dining space. We're not in a food delivery space. Only a dining app. We do
Right.
not do food delivery. Whenever you visit, you order.
Mm.
So and we are based out of Mumbai,
Right.
right? So Mumbai was one of the hardest. Like it's first to shut, last to open,
Mm.
and specifically for restaurants.
Right.
So almost, if we have been in 2.5 years in business, out of which roughly 10 months dining was completely shut because of COVID.
Right.
Right. So I to kind of joke around saying that technically it has only been 1.8 years or something like that.
Mm.
Right. That is because most of the time it was like it's completely zero. Even today, if you think about it, Mumbai is very much dependent on locals.
Right.
Right. Locals are still not open for all public, right?
Mm.
In Mumbai. Schools, colleges are not open. Offices are still not completely functional, right? And dining out kind of gets affected a lot by it,
Right.
right? And even then, we have grown almost uh, 10 times in last 10 months,
Mm.
right? This is, even with this kind of environment, if we have been grown, I can only imagine what will happen the moment dining out recursion comes back in, right? Where the moment people come back in, I can just imagine what will happen. Right.
Mm.
Apart from that, there have always been scaling challenges that everyone else faces, right, which are very similar to most entrepreneurs out there, right? Wherein hiring is a challenge by default, right? And for us to even more so because there is no augmented reality teaching in the first place.
Right.
No college courses, no colleges, nothing. No one teaches you that, right? So it's like by default, we have to anyone who comes in, we have to groom them,
Mm.
right? So those challenges have always been there. Right, but that's kind of what adds to the fun of it. Right. To solve those is why we exist in the first place.
Right. Uh, since you mentioned that for the first year, you were just building the tech, and tech building is an expensive process as well. Can you tell us how did you fund your operations initially till that point where you broke even, or if you can also share how we are managing finances right now also?
Sure. So we have raised till date about $500,000, right, from IP Ventures, Let's Venture, CFO of Book My Show, CFO of Ola Cabs,
Okay.
right. A lot of great folks across. Right. So from the get-go, I remember we knew a few people in the industry. It has always been a great backing and looking them, and they generally guide us very well.
Okay.
right? On which stage, how you should navigate from this stage. Like right now also, we are at about 500, 600 restaurants, right? And doing about 15,000. Our target is to grow from 15,000 to 1,50,000 orders within the next 6 months,
Mm.
right? Go from 500 to 2,000 restaurants in the next 6 months,
Right.
right? Essentially, in the initial days, the founders put in some money, and then we ended up raising quite early on.
Okay. Uh, where did you find the product market fit, and what are the different tweaks that you do uh, to achieve that?
Yeah. Contrary to most popular opinion, right? I personally like to believe that product market fit is a ongoing process rather than a one-stop solution that okay, we have achieved it, right? Of course, there are some numbers and metrics of some level, right? Wherein highly you can just classify it how many new users you are getting, what is their repeat rate, what is their retention rate, and what is the revenue you are making per user. Kind of gives you a good upper level analysis, but that is also very flawed to a lot of sense, right? So how I like to believe is to not think too much about like there is a lot of talks around it that you should find product market fit kind of does not make sense because it's ever fleeting state, right? And since it is changing all the time, that is what kind of makes it the thing. And that is why most companies, even today, right? Zomato launched an update 3 days ago where they completely changed most of the things on that,
Right.
right? Like a lot of people, most companies keep on updating and uploading more things because even if you have achieved it, like logically, if you think about it, even if you have or have not achieved product market fit per se, your processes don't change. What you were doing even before it or after it was the same. So there's no point in saying that we have achieved it. Right. Of course, we track certain metrics internally where we know that these are the certain benchmarks that we need to hit. Right. And once we hit that, we know that okay, this is some. But majorly, you come to know the moment you just speak with your customers more often,
Mm.
right? That is the best way for you to come to know and have some level of broader economic sense that would this be viable enough for your business? Is this something in the long run that will help you out in having those exponential returns? Right. If you feel that is good enough, then it makes sense to do it.
Any pivots that you have done so far to your venture?
I would also again, I would not call them pivots. I would just call them iteration.
Okay.
Like ideally, I remember Michael Sibel from YC, great definition of pivots versus iterations.
Mm.
Right, pivots is when you change your customer segment altogether. Iteration is same customer segment, you just kind of keep tweaking the product.
Mm.
Right. So our customer segment has always been the same. Dining in, like we want to be the dine-in app of India. Right. Our restaurant, if you look at iterations, right? So we used to, as I said, we first used to provide it on the tablets,
Mm.
right? Then we switched into mobile phones. In mobile phones, also we previously did not have any sort of loyalty, cashbacks, discounts, or those factors. We started that, right? We also iterated discovery on the platform. We iterated ordering on the platform, payments on the platform,
Mm.
right? So those iterations, and it's a constant cycle, right? Wherein in the next few months we might also add a few some sort of a social experience to ordering,
Okay.
right? Because we have seen that by default ordering has or dining in is a much more social activity,
Mm.
and that kind of element is missing. So we'll add those things also, and it's a constant cycle of iteration, right? So our customer segment has always more or less been the same, and the problem statement has also been the same, right? Wherein a customer should watch an order, right?
Mm.
And then we have been solving for that only.
Okay. Now, next set of questions will be around your personal journey as an entrepreneur. Can you tell us why entrepreneurship? What drives you to become an entrepreneur and not something else?
Sure. So by default, luckily for me, that I have been in entrepreneurship. Like even today, I'm 22 right now. Right? I passed out of college 2020.
Hmm.
right? So it's something, I remember we had raised our first round when I was in second year of my college, right? I just completed my second year, just entered in third year, right? I
Mm,
used to manage being in college and building a company where I had about 10 people team,
mm,
right? So even before that I used to have some or other small ventures, right? I have always been that person, right, where I have tried to flip things. I had an e-commerce website. I used to basically I had built an Uber for ambulance prior to this, right?
okay.
I used to be as a freelancer for Facebook ads to across for different places,
Mm,
right? That is some sort of like how I have, at least I have seen it, is either you are or you aren't. There is no in between, right? Either you are bit by that bug where you just want to do it, right?
mm,
And that goes on to show in your previous life also, right? And it does not necessarily have to be entrepreneurship. It just has to be some sort of a self-initiative,
mm,
right? A person who is self-initiated will become an entrepreneur one day or another, more or less,
okay.
right?
How do
So
you define the term entrepreneur then? What is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you?
I would probably say that it is something that if you want to have something of your own, right, that you would kind of like to call your own, right, and if you want to build that, if you want to solve a problem for the world, right, where if you see something and it just frustrates you, right,
Mm,
where you see people doing something and it's like, why are you doing this? There is a much better option out there. Like just why like when you start getting those things and you start taking those initiatives for it, you become a self by default. That is, I'd call that person an entrepreneur.
okay. My last question to you. Tell us what are the different lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur, which we can take away and apply to our lives and our ventures.
Sure. So I think as on a personal level, I don't think there is a any age limit to it.
Mm,
Right. I started when I was like, even before that, when I was in 11th, 12th, I used to do on a smaller scale of entrepreneurship. Right.
mm,
I used to be head of committees or some form of another. Used to organize events.
mm,
Right. Even some form of another. Try to have that self initiative. And whenever you think you are in a decent stage or you find a problem that is big enough, right? When I found a problem that dine-in across the globe is
mm,
broken, then I had the vision to build a consumer app from India to the world, right?
okay.
If you look at even today, like I have always been born and brought up in a way
Mm,
where I have seen as a customer, we have used foreign apps,
mm,
right? Most of the companies that we have been using come from, like, they're from there to India, or at least if not that, then there is an Indian model of it.
mm,
Like even if it's an Indian company, it's just they copy pasted it. What worked there, you try to make it work here.
great.
Right. When we wanted to reverse that, we want to build in India for the world. Right. We want to be the Indian B2C company that goes to the world.
Mm,
Right. And this is something that we have not seen anywhere. Like even today in US, Singapore, there is no one who is trying to change the dining industry
mm,
in that sense,
great.
right? And that is what we want to we want to achieve,
Okay.
right? So but always try to think comparatively different from others,
Mm,
right? Try to see what is around you and always look for problems that you feel are big enough to solve, right? And ideally try to along it's think of it as a journey and not an end goal. Like
mm,
everything is of a process, right? And as people say, the score takes care of itself, right? Just focus a lot on process, and if your input metrics are correct, your output metrics will by default work it out, right? So
absolutely.
try to, like, even internally, whenever if we anyone in the company is feeling low, or you try, and there is, because there will be a lot of failings by
Mm,
default, you will fail so many amount of times that you will find it frustrating,
great.
right? And that's completely okay. You are bound to have that feeling if you are trying to make something new in the world,
Mm,
right? And you just have to be high spirited enough and just get that in your understanding that this is part of the process. There is no need to stop it. See, it's a process. Like life itself is a process.
mm,
If I'm here for 50 years, I, like if I'm going to work for 50 years, I, that is okay. few setbacks don't stop us from doing that.
Right. Well, at this point, we have come to the end of this discussion. Thanks for your time, Dharmin, and our best wishes for peAR Technologies.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.
Likewise.